A video was circulating around social media of Donald Trump saying to a room full of wealthy donors, "I'm gonna cut your taxes even further." And obviously not the most popular thing for him to be saying. Also not something that he'd broadcast to all of his followers at a rally, for example. And this was being perceived by a lot of people to be a recent video. I do think this comes from a fundraiser Trump held some time ago. We'll get to his recent fundraiser last night as of when I'm recording this after playing this video. But the video I want to play for you will include the one I'm referencing, but it's also President Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders responding to Trump saying this to a room full of wealthy donors and giving their thoughts on it. So let's take a look at this and then we'll get into other things.
You're all people that have a lot of money. I know 20 of you and you're rich as hell. We're going to give you tax cuts. We're going to pay off our debt.
You know, that's everything you need to know about Donald Trump. When he thinks the cameras aren't on, he tells his rich friends, quote, "We're going to give you tax cuts."
Can anybody in America imagine that at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, billionaires are doing phenomenally well, that he's going to give them huge tax breaks? And then at the same time, he's going to cut Social Security and Medicare and programs that our kids need.
I'm going to really quickly pause your viewing of this video to ask you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just click that subscribe button plus the like button as well and the alert bell so you get notifications. Back to it.
This is his economic plan? That's what he wants to do? Cutting taxes for his friends? Cutting Social Security for you? That makes me mad as hell, quite frankly.
The hypocrisy is just outrageous. This is what he says to his billionaire friends, not quite what he's saying at his rallies.
There are 1,000 billionaires in America, in this country. They pay an average tax rate of 8.2% federal taxes. So I have a plan, we have a plan, asking his good buddies to begin to pay their fair share.
You have one candidate who wants to cut Medicare and Social Security and one who's going to protect it. That's why I'm supporting Joe, and I hope you will as well.
Thanks, pal.
So great response there from the two of them. And I talk a lot, constantly, some might say, about the reasons that Trump should never be president again. And for the sake of clarity, I focus in on the most existential issues and the most crucial for people to understand, namely how Trump threatens democracy, his authoritarian ambitions for a second term. And because of that, I think sometimes I forget to emphasize as well that he is the opposite of the candidate that the working class should be in favor of. And so many working class MAGA people will vote for Donald Trump despite him absolutely being against their interests and being for the interests of, whenever he can get a legislative victory, those at the top of the economic ladder, with his tax cuts disproportionately benefiting them. And so while Biden has attempted to, and successfully in many ways, has invested in and tried to uplift communities that actually need the support and need that help, Donald Trump just worked in the interest of those who already have so much. And that's the opposite of what so many of his supporters should be voting in favor of. And so that we shouldn't forget. And moments like that Biden and Bernie Sanders were responding to the video of Trump at that fundraiser should remind us of that fact. Then, and that was from, like I said, a flashback to previous fundraiser. Trump just held a big fundraiser that lots of people are reporting on. ABC News here says Trump's Palm Beach fundraiser, joined by Melania, rare sight to see, rakes in $50 million, organizers say. Now, before I say anything else on this, let me read something from Ben Meiselas of the Midas Touch Network that he posted on X. Here we go again. He says, Trump claims he raised some huge amount of money with no proof. His team uses words like pledged and commitment. The media knowingly becomes a pawn to spread the spin versus reality. Trump has 0 field offices. Biden has over 100. Biden has outraged Trump every month by huge amounts. Call me naive, but I'll wait until I see proof before accepting financial representations from someone found liable for financial fraud and sexual assault. And it's not a bad point at all. And I think we should be skeptical of anything that comes out of the Trump campaign. They're not exactly known for their accuracy or, God forbid, honesty. But I actually have a different point on this. Let's just take the number, 50 million. Wow, record breaking. Doubled, almost exactly doubled, suspicious. Biden's Radio City Music Hall event. But weren't we hearing from MAGA in the days after the Radio City Obama, Clinton, Biden event that it was such an elitist event? And that Biden, this just represented how out of touch Biden was. Sure, he raised a lot of money, but that's just because he was in the room with a bunch of really wealthy people. And that's exactly why we should go for the working class hero, Donald Trump. And then he holds an event, and the impressive part of it is supposed to be how he raised even more and a bunch of wealthy people. Characteristically, this event was a wealthy person event. And that's incredible now to MAGA. Not representing Trump being out of touch. Biden's out of touch for holding an event where he raised a bunch of money from wealthy people. Trump not out of touch for doing the same thing. Apparently even more dramatically doing that sort of thing. So that, I think, is an interesting point as well. But NBC News reports former President Donald Trump has secured commitments, has been said, commitments totaling $50 million for a Saturday fundraiser in Palm Beach, Florida. According to 4 sources familiar with an effort that could bring in double what 3 Democratic presidents raised last week for President Joe Biden's reelection push. Now, let's analyze who was at this event, because not all people with lots of money are the same, of course. And this particular group of people who have a lot of money, horrible. Biden Harris HQ on X just brutally tore into the different individuals who were at this event. Tonight, they wrote, Donald Trump is holding a billionaire fundraiser to pay his mounting legal bills. Here are some of the scammers, racists, and extremists funding Trump's failing campaign. Like I told you, brutal. But here are the facts. Trump donor John Paulson wants to cut Social Security and oppose financial regulations to protect Americans after the 2008 crash, which he profited off of. And they attach headlines referencing different reports on the subjects they reference. Trump donor Robert Bigelow complained he couldn't evict tenants out of his buildings during the pandemic and supports Florida's extreme Don't Say Gay law. You have another Trump donor with a last name that I'm going to mess up, Katsimandis, who compared taxes on the wealthy to the Holocaust, and his business has been forced to pay millions in lawsuits over unfair labor practices and consumer safety violations. You have another guy who refused to fire his assistant when it was found out the assistant was married to 2 KKK leaders. All right. Jamie McCourt pocketed over $10 million for her stock shares before public citizens were made aware of the pandemic severity. She's a former Trump ambassador, and so she was profiting while Trump was downplaying the significance of the pandemic. Kelly Loeffler, former Republican senator, we remember her. My goodness, horrible stuff on that front. Trump donor Robert Mercer opposes the Civil Rights Act, and get this, he called it a major mistake and believes the government is backwards for helping, quote, weak people get strong. Trump donor Jeff Yass has avoided $1 billion in taxes and wants to privatize Social Security. And we could just go on and on. My goodness. Steve Wynn was accused by dozens of workers of sexual misconduct, as the Wall Street Journal reported on there. So not the best batch of people. And I guess that's fitting for who they're going to donate to. But please, MAGA supporters who aren't 100 millionaires or billionaires, think about why these individuals who have a record of trying to undermine the working class and do everything, slash regulations, slash taxes, so that they can have more power and wealth. Why do they want Trump to be president again? It's because that's really the only thing from a policy standpoint, economically, that he's going to prioritize. He has a lot of horrible authoritarian ambitions, but his economic policy will be one of undermining the working class and further uplifting the wealthiest among us. And that's not what we need right now. And so think about that when you go in to vote for him. Then just to further contextualize this event with the broader fundraising numbers, you have Biden raising $90 million in March, whereas Trump raised $65 million in March. And this, of course, being before the big fundraiser. President Biden raised more than $187 million in the past quarter, currently has $192 million in cash on hand, which doubles what Trump has in cash on hand. But again, that's before what they're saying was a massive event, massive fundraiser for Trump. We'll see if that manifests in an evidential sense. But regardless, I'm feeling pretty good. Money's not everything, but we're seeing the ground game being implemented from the Biden campaign in a way that the Trump ground game just doesn't seem to be happening. And that does matter. And having the money to run a campaign in the final stretch matters a lot. And then all the other reasons we've talked about in the past, the different variables at play in the next few months, I think will benefit Joe Biden. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel.